Working alone overnight at a toll booth seems boring until the wrong car pulls up. Story 1. I have spent 3 years watching the world go by from a glass-walled box that looks like a lighthouse for the damned. The toll plaza on I-90 is a strip of concrete and neon 20 miles from the nearest town, a place where the only sound at night is the hum of a lone wind turbine and the low-ranged groan of a truck's engine settling onto the cement. My shift starts at midnight and ends at 6, and each night the road slips into a black river that swallows the headlights whole. At first, the job felt like a lullaby. I'd sit in the booth, cup of bitter coffee at my elbow, and watch the numbers roll across the monitor as cars and rigs pay their toll, the scanner beeping like a distant heart. The world is easy to ignore when you have the glow of the dashboard lights as a companion. Tonight, the night is colder than usual. My breath fogs the thin pane as the wind beats the signage, making the "Welcome to" sign sway like it's about to fall off its post. I glance at my watch. 12:07. The first car rolls up, a dented sedan with a cracked rearview mirror. The driver, a woman in a rain-slicked coat, hands over the cash with a trembling hand. She's the first to smile at me, tired, and I smile back, just a thin line across my face. She drives off, disappearing into the night like a thin thread pulled into darkness. The next hour is a procession of ordinary trucks, the occasional family SUV, and the occasional lone motorist who pauses, stares at the camera, then drives on without paying. They're the ones that get under my skin, the ones who think they can cheat a system that never looks back. At 1:43 a.m., a black sedan pulls in. No lights, no taillights, just a matte slab that seems to absorb the glow around it. My scanner chirps, green, payment registered, yet the driver never appears. The windshield is cracked, the interior a void of blackness. I tilt my head, squinting. The car is empty, but the engine idles, humming low, as if someone is watching from inside the darkness. My heart thuds against my ribs. I pull the lever to close the gate. The car doesn't move, and the sound of the engine fades into a low, guttural whisper, like a breath held too long. I glance at the monitor. The camera feed shows only a dim silhouette slumped over the steering wheel. My hands shake as I reach for the intercom. "Mr. Johnson, you can't..." A crackle fills the speaker. A voice, far too close and too cold, says, "Pay your toll, or pay the price." The line goes dead. The lights flicker. The neon sign sputters, casting strobe shadows across the concrete. A low moan rolls from the highway, not a truck, not wind, more like a human wail pressed against the asphalt. I step out, boots crunching on frost-hard gravel, and look down the blackened road. Vehicles that were once silhouettes now appear as hulks of rust and cracked glass, their windows aglow with a phosphorescent ooze that drips down like slime. My radio crackles. "All units, I repeat, all units. We have an unregistered vehicle at toll 37. Suspect possibly armed." I swallow the lump in my throat. The black sedan is gone, but the scent of gasoline lingers, thick and metallic. My breath comes out in clouds, and the world feels like a thin pane ready to crack. I turn back to the booth, fingers numb, and see the glass, now covered in a film of condensation that looks oddly like handprints. The numbers on the monitor have stopped scrolling. One final bold digit flashes. 0. The gate swings open on its own. A rush of cold wind slides through, carrying with it a soft, rhythmic tapping, like a finger against a window. I don't know who or what is waiting beyond the concrete, but I know the toll has already been paid. I sit back down, the coffee cold, the night closing in, and I listen to the sound of my own heartbeat echoing against the empty road. Story 2. The fluorescent lights of Toll Plaza 42 hummed with an aggressive, insect-like vibration that seemed to vibrate inside my skull. It was 3:17 a.m. Outside the glass booth, the Nevada desert was an impenetrable wall of ink, swallowing the beams of my floodlights. I hated the graveyard shift. It wasn't just the isolation. It was the way the highway felt like a digestive tract, moving things through the dark that didn't want to be seen. The first hint of trouble came in the form of a black sedan with no plates. It glided into my lane without the sound of an engine, tires crunching softly on the asphalt. I stood, reaching for the receipt printer, but the driver didn't move to pay. He just sat there. His window was tinted to the point of opacity, a slick, oily black that mirrored my own pale, exhausted face. I cleared my throat. "That'll be $4.50. Nothing. The interior of the car felt pressurized, a vacuum of silence. I leaned closer to the glass, squinting. That's when I noticed the driver's hand resting on the doorframe. It was wrong. The fingers were too long, possessing an extra knuckle that bowed outward in an unnatural, spider-like sprawl. A cold sweat pricked at my neck. I retreated, my heart hammering against my ribs, and pressed the emergency alarm button beneath the counter. It remained silent. Not even the faint click of a relay. The driver finally moved. A gloved hand slid a single coin through the narrow pay slot. It wasn't currency. It was a copper slug, blackened by fire, etched with a sigil that hurt my eyes to look at. As I stared, the sedan's back door creaked open an inch. I didn't look. I knew better than to look. But the smell hit me then. The cloying, sweet stench of wet earth and rot. The smell of an open grave. "The road is closed," I whispered, my voice trembling. The car didn't leave. Instead, the engine finally flickered to life, not with the rumble of a motor, but with a wet, grinding sound, like teeth chewing glass. The car began to stretch. The metal groaned and warped, the chassis elongating as if the vehicle were trying to mimic the form of something much larger. Panic surged. I dove under the desk, curling into a ball, clutching my radio. Outside, the booth shuddered. The glass shattered inward, showering me in diamond-sharp fragments. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for the sun, for the dawn, for anything other than the rhythmic, heavy thudding of something or someone stepping onto the tile floor of my booth. The hum of the fluorescent lights cut out. Total darkness swallowed me, save for the sound of wet, rhythmic breathing right above my head. "Keep the change," a voice rasped. It sounded like dry leaves skittering over a tombstone. Then the highway went silent. When the sun finally touched the horizon, I was still under the desk. The toll booth was empty, but when I looked at the coin on the counter, it was no longer metal. It was a human tooth, still warm, pulsing in the morning light.